This is a quickie about the comments. Two very good questions I received lately about the vid. So let me jump right in. I'm just bouncing around here on my browser. Okay, the first one I'd like to start is, of course, Steve. stevebob1967. SR, how you doing? I hope you're doing well. Bunto, really good quality video. Always enjoy them. You're welcome. That being said, I do have some thoughts. Since you are saying up front that there are no gods, the burden of proof is on you. I don't think you provided enough evidence for the lack of existence of a god or gods. Also, the agnostic atheist thing is a dead argument. Even Dawkins said he was only 99% sure there wasn't a god. Hope things improve with you and D. Why don't we try something that I don't think I've heard yet through the community? If we're going to talk theism, atheism, and agnostic, and the God concept, this is a lucky conversation. We're not really talking theology, but we're talking the God concept. Let's look at this completely from an engineering standpoint, from almost purely mechanistic front. Treat it very clean like that, like we're going to be building an airplane or something, of knowing the workings. Since you are saying up front that there are no gods, the burden of proof is on you. I don't think you provided enough evidence for the lack of existence of a god or gods. Well, let's start making a mound of God, okay? Let's say, Steve, you're in your house, in your best room of your house, your best comfy chair. There's no neighbors making noises or anything. You're all yourself with a beer or a tea, and you just get to sit there for a good 30 minutes thinking up things that science will never figure out, or will have a hard time figuring out, but maybe some things science will never figure out, okay? And then these things you can label as something that can fit within the God concept, God things, okay? So you sit there and you think of things like hidden realities, multi-universes, other dimensions, and one of my favorites that I just thought of last night. Well, I've thought of it before, but I've always thought, if there's anything that I'm sure science will never figure out, it's symmetry. If there's nothing that screams God throughout our universe, it's symmetry. Why is there order? Why is there symmetry? Okay, so you come up with a whole pile of God things that fit, within the God concept, right? That science is almost hapless to figure out at this point, and probably maybe in the future, if you figured out a lot of good ones. Okay, so let's go ahead and step back and take a look at it. And the first thing we notice, or that somebody will say, is that, hey, there's boundaries there. Boundaries, what do you mean? Well, animals. Why don't animals buy into the God concept? If they could, it would be pretty bad news for us. Why? Because it would be this other species that could sense the supernatural or something, maybe even, do supernatural things that could acquire that trait and pass it down through its offspring, via evolution. And, we take our dominance over this planet for granted. And if there was another creature that could do supernatural or godlike things to us, I'm sure that story would change quickly. Anyway, to get to the point, animals certainly don't buy into the God concept. So that's all right? No. How about the machines we make? We make computational machines. These guys don't buy into the God concept. They just cannot see anything as magically there. All the immaterial qualities that we can come up with in philosophy and theology and mysticism, these guys just do not see or utilize. It does not compute. They don't see it. So there we got two things, machines and animals. Anybody else? And then now comes mathematics and formal logic. They don't work with magical things. They need to have values, and there's no values there in the supernatural and in the God concept for them. They step up there, and then the last but least, let's bring in science. Science for a couple hundred years now has said over and over there's no evidence of a outside agency messing with our reality. We have not detected it scientifically in modern science of this sort of activity going on. So then you have a whole bunch of people that don't want to buy into the God concept, right? So right there, I gave it away. It's human. It's man-made. That's what the boundary is. Okay, so the question was, I don't think you provided enough evidence for the lack of existence of a god or gods. And so right there, they'll always claim that proving a negative. That's, a valid, logical argument. You can't prove a negative. But the thing is, we've just gone through this exercise of providing best way of stumping science. And then we can see even that has a boundary of it being totally man-made. So, I mean, if we can't detect the God in the first place, no matter how good we get at contriving, how good we get at molding our reality, how good we get at molding the God concept around reality doesn't, weigh up to the fact that there is no evidence. Also, the agnostic atheist thing is a dead argument. Even Dawkins said he was only 99% sure there wasn't a God. Well, subjective, which is not a big problem. Also, the agnostic atheist thing is a dead argument. What's interesting about that, Steve, is that, I'm coming from the point saying that there's no value in agnosticism, and then you're coming from the exact opposite end where you're saying that all atheists should be agnostic. That should be the position. All this has to do I'll come to the even Dawkins. It has a lot to do with the former sentence of evidence. What will you believe in without evidence? Even Dawkins said he was only 99% sure there wasn't a God. Well, I mean, he may take that position. I'm not sure. Pretty sure it's actual. But the thing I would tell Dawkins is like, okay, let's talk about the 1% of unicorns, leprechauns, Bigfoot. Well, the thing is, I look at it like this. A person of Dawkins' stature saying that, I think is more so to at least, hedge the bet if there's ever going to be egg putting on his face. For example, the guy goes out and hammers, hey, there's no unicorns. There's no unicorns. There's no unicorns. I stake everything that there's no unicorns. And then he goes to sleep, wakes up in the morning, CNN reports, we found unicorns in Zimbabwe. Unicorns in Zimbabwe. Well, then he has egg on his face, right? But the thing is, that's what I got to in the video with D. I mean, at that point, people would like for you to say when you wake up in heaven, I told you so, Bunto, and you're supposed to say, yes, you're right. No, at that point you say, let's test. Let's find out how this can be with the reality as we know it. And then we find out that the unicorns in Zimbabwe were artificially created by scientists, right? It's a good point there in that you'll hear from other atheists, I want to say many atheists, but other atheists, that they would rather have the whole entire God concept be tossed out. Just get rid of the whole thing. No gods, no God concept, right? Well, actually, even though I say there's no God, the God concept we have to keep because we don't know in the future what people could create. And I'm sure there's going to be somebody who's going to create artificial unicorns, artificial Bigfoot, and artificial God. I mean, they're not going to reinvent the wheel when it comes to that.